Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me on the last day at Ignite, last session. You are all like the guerrilla fighters at the end, so thank you for being here. I know a lot of you are anxious to fly home or go explore Atlanta for those of you that are staying over the weekend, so I really, really appreciate that you're here today to join me. My name is Melissa Torres. I am a program manager in the SharePoint Experiences team, and today I'm going to be talking to you about an issue that impacts every single one of us, both professionally and personally. It's an issue that reaches every single country, every single gender, and every single age. We all know someone that lives with the loss of a limb, the inability to see or hear, or motor impairment, such as muscular dystrophy. Providing people of all abilities access to products and services that they can use is important to all organizations, small or large. With SharePoint being one of the most widely used collaboration platforms, it makes sense that SharePoint be accessible for people with all abilities. So that's what I'm going to be talking to you guys today. My goal is to make sure you feel secure and at ease that you've chosen SharePoint as the most accessible solution. And to do that in this session, I'm going to start with what is accessibility and why it's important, why we're focusing on it, how SharePoint is approaching accessibility. We're also doing, I'll also be kind of showing you guys not only how we're focusing on it, but what we've done over the last months in our new modern experiences. And I'm going to be showing you a lot of demos that you guys have seen before, but here's the thing, in ways you haven't seen yet. So it's going to be exciting because it's going to be different from what you've seen, and I know you've seen a lot of demos this week. Last, finally, I'm going to show you how you don't have to spend money on expensive add-on solutions to make SharePoint accessible, and you can get it out of the box, because we're working on making sure that happens. And if not, we're also giving you the tools and guidance you need to build on top of SharePoint in an accessible way using the SharePoint development framework. Now, there's two things that I want to let you guys know from heads up. One is this is not a developer kind of led session. I will not be sharing code on how to make things accessible. Happy to talk to questions about that at the end. Also, this session's pretty much forward-looking, and by that I mean we'll primarily be talking about SharePoint Online. So to get us going, I thought I'd start with a cool demo. OK, so what you're looking at right now is the new SharePoint home experience. If you're on SharePoint Online, you should already have this in your tenants. But if you don't, I'm sure you've seen this page in demos this week. This is your portal for all your SharePoint sites. It's the way to find all the sites that you either frequently visit, belong to, follow. And so the way that you've seen this, or the way that you currently navigate it for the majority of us, is through using mouse, keyboard. But I'm actually going to demo this hands-free. I'm going to use voice to walk through its UI. And you might ask yourself, why would anybody do this? Well, individuals with motor impairments, such as quadriplegia that don't have the use of their limbs, don't really have other ways to use it, so they rely on things like speech. So it's very important to be able to get their work done and get their tasks done by using something like their voice. So I'll be using a tool called the Windows Speech Recognition. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. Now, I need two big favors from all of you. One, funny story, I brought a microphone, and on transit, it broke. So I need you all to be super quiet. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but in case you were planning to scream at one point, please hold it. Two, and this is very important, in order for this to work, I have to sound very robotic. Like, has anybody seen like Lost in Space, the robot? Like, attention, Will Rogers, right? So it'll be just like that. And so I know that'll make you want to smile and laugh, but please hold it, because then it'll interfere with the demo, OK? OK, so let's do this. Oh, one last thing. What I'm going to be doing is navigating to a site, navigating through the contents of a site. Loyalty program. Regional launch plans. California. 1. Cancel. SharePoint. Create site. Food. Sorry, I'm hungry. So as you can see I even followed up with, some weird verbiage because I kept talking. But as you can see, just with the use of voice, I was able to go anywhere from navigating the list of sites to going to the site, navigating the left nav of the site. I could even have opened the document. I went back to SharePoint just simply using my voice. And this is important, like I said, because it really helps those people. And a lot of us, hey, what if you were cooking or doing something and you couldn't use your hands? Now you can navigate SharePoint. Damn yeah. That's right, here's my shear section right here. Go for it. OK, so what is accessibility? Well, accessibility is developing experiences for people of all abilities, being inclusive. And it ranges anywhere from permanent disabilities to temporary conditions such as a broken arm, to situational limitations, like a bartender trying to take drink orders over very loud music, which is, I know, an experience that a lot of you went through last night as you was partying in the last Ignite party, or for those of you that started earlier in the week at the bar, at the club. Making demand for accessible products is growing. So making SharePoint accessible, one of our priorities, is important because it really helps you guys in many ways. One, it enables productivity. Enables people to work individually as well as be efficient by themselves. It fosters collaboration. Knowing that I can create something and share it with somebody and that they can consume it easily without you have to doing extra work really makes things easier. It also reduces the need for special add-ons. If we do our job right, it's out of the box, and so you don't have to spend that money on extra things. And fourth, it reduces legal risk. Most regulations, a lot of regulations are stepping up and are being put in place in 4 particular areas: procurement policy, inclusive classroom requirements, inclusive workplace requirements, and web accessibility. For example, here in the US, we have federal agencies have to adhere to what's called the Section 508. And in Europe has their own. And what they mandate is that no federal agency can procure or use services or software that are not accessible. So that's just an example of, and we can expect more of that to continue. When it comes to web accessibility specifically, historically, when you think of SharePoint, you think of web accessibility, although I'm going to prove you wrong. But here's kind of the things that fall into place. Here's the things that you have to consider. And SharePoint has historically had to meet these requirements. And I'll actually walk you through how we meet them in our new modern experiences. There's an industry shift right now to really focus on accessibility. So it's a really exciting time. Personally, for me, I've been working on accessibility for the last 3 years. Sorry, I hit my microphone. And even more so at Microsoft, where we're making it a strategic bet. We as a company have learned over the last few years that accessibility really needs to be included all the way from the design phase, all the way down to when we ship a product. It's got to be built in. Whether we historically have really what we've been doing is having it be added at the end and be a bolt-on. So let me show you an example of what bolt-on accessibility looks like. What do you guys see in this image? Speak up. What? Exactly. How would you get up the door through the ramp? This is an example of what bolt-on accessibility looks like. So probably the people who came up with this building said, hey, we need stairs to get inside the building. OK, check. They built the stairs. And then they realized, we don't have a way to, we don't have a ramp. We don't have a way for a person in a wheelchair to go up this ramp. So what do? Oh, we'll just add a ramp. And they did. But here's the thing. They didn't really consider how a user on a wheelchair would go up the ramp, open the door, and go in. And this is a diagram, but this is actually based off a picture of a real building, just to show you. This is what bolt-on accessibility looks like. And in some ways, it's been a little bit of what we've been doing, but not anymore. In SharePoint, we've always cared about accessibility. When we transitioned from SharePoint 2010 to 2013, we had overhauled our entire UX. We had skip links, so you could skip to main contents of the page. We also introduced the more accessible mode that allowed us to render some controls, especially useful for assistive technologies. But for SharePoint Online, we really changed our approach. We decided that we were going to modernize our experiences, and as part of that, really focus on making sure that our experiences were accessible. And we focused on 4 things. 1, for users with motor impairment, such as Parkinson's disease, muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy, we added predictable and efficient keyboard. These are individuals that lack the precision to use a mouse. So being able to navigate the entire experience with just using their keyboard is incredibly important. So we delivered on predictable and efficient keyboarding by using keyboarding, tabbing to navigate through the major portions of the page, using arrow keys instead to navigate through some controls that made more sense to use arrow keys, as well as keyboard shortcuts for the major file operations. For non-sighted users or in low vision users, we added intuitive narration. That means we not only read to you what it's on the page, but we also provide you context information of how to use that control and confirmations once it's done. For colorblind users, we added color contrast. And basically, we don't use color as the only means to convey information on the page, and enough contrast ratio between the background and the foreground, so to really help readability. And last but not least, to help everybody, we have documentation. Documentation such as help materials to help people understand how to use our new experiences, and I'll actually show you what that looks like, as well as updated conformance statements, so that if you need to know, hey, in order for us to be transparent to you of what our gaps are. So that was our strategy, and then we figured out, hey, cool, we're going to do this, but how are we actually going to do that? And so we decided that we do it in 5 stages. And the first stage is that we would start focusing on the most used features in SharePoint. SharePoint is huge. It's got a lot of surface area. So we knew we needed to hone down on the areas that made the most sense. And the first of those is document libraries. And I'm going to actually show you a demo of what we did there.
JAWS Professional Loyalty Program Help.
I know you guys are super excited to see this. That the voice came out before the image even came out. OK, so what you're looking at right now is the SharePoint Modern Document Library. And what I'm going to show you is how you can navigate this entire page using 2 things. One is keyboarding, and the second one is screen reader. And for those of you who know, non-sighted users or low vision users use screen readers that basically take what you see on the page and convert it into speech. And for this particular demo, we're going to be using the #1 screen reader in the world, which is JAWS. Yes, just like the Shark movie. So the way I'm going to start is I'm going to start by navigating to the menu bar. And I want you to pay close attention to what it says.
Tab menu. To move through items, press up or down arrow.
So as you can see, as soon as you land on the menu bar, we tell you that to press down left and right arrow to navigate.
To create a new folder or office document in this location, use
Sorry, let me go back here a second and let me do that again because it got
search
skipped.
box. Press enter to
Okay. Here we go.
tab. Menu. New. Create a new folder or office document in this location. Use the left or right arrow keys to navigate and the enter key to activate. Submenu. To move through items, press up or down arrow.
So I know that's very long, but basically we're telling the user two things. A, we've landed in the menu bar. 2, you use left and right arrow keys to navigate across the menu bar. 3, you're actually in a submenu, so you can go up and down. And so if I just press the down arrow.
Folder. Word document.
I can super easily create a new document. Now, here's another cool thing we did. Most web pages, and I challenge you to give this a try, when you go and perform an action such as going into a dialogue or opening a link, they will put the focus all the way back to the start of the page. We don't do that anymore. When I click escape right now, focus is going to go back. And this is super useful because imagine if you've spent all the effort to navigate to a certain portion of the page to carry a task and then being taken all the way to the start. Nobody likes to do that, right? So we've made that fix so we don't force our users to do that either. So I'm going to click escape.
Escape. New. Create a new.
And as you can see, you're back in the new menu. And if I right arrow, we can go through the rest of the commands.
Upload. Upload files from your computer to this. Quick edit. Edit. Sync. Sync this.
Now I'm going to jump to the list of folders and files. Now, it's simple to do just by clicking the tab key. And I want you to pay close attention again to what it says.
Tab. Leaving menus. Pinned items list box. To tab. List of folders and files. Use up and down arrow keys to navigate. Use the space key to select within the list.
So we tell them, hey, now you're in the list of folders and files. Again, that's setting expectations of where they are. 2, we tell them how to navigate the list, which is using up and down arrow keys. And I stopped it, but if I let it continue, it also tell me that we landed on the select all in case what they really wanted to do was select all files and delete them. So now I'm going to use down arrow, and I'm going to show you how it reads.
Bavarian expansion collateral folder modified Wednesday at 11:31 a.m.
So it reads not only the folder name, but that it's a folder, and also the modified by, and that happens for all files.
Architects.psd image modified September 19th.
So here's something that's really cool and I'm very excited about, so I'll share it to you, and you guys all have to be excited with me, and I hope you applaud. So I can navigate up and down using arrow keys, but wouldn't it be cool if you can navigate left and right using your arrow keys? Well, we do that too. So if you want to get to the columns, check this out.
Toggle button pressed. Row header architects.psd link. Show actions button menu press.
But here's the thing. When I start navigating through the columns, we'll tell you the column name and the value.
Modified column September 19th. Status column reviewed. Region column national.
So here's the very exciting thing about this. We've basically built the exact same functionality that exists in Windows Explorer now on the web. And what that allows is familiarity for non-sighted users. The feedback that we got from them was, hey, I know how to use Windows Explorer, but when we go on the web, how do we keep that? I just wanted to work the same way. Well, now we do. And we do other cool things. So if I hit down and I press Shift F10.
Shift F10, context menu to navigate, press up or down.
We open the context menu. So it's a quick and easy way to get to. And now I'm going to go and do a copy.
Share, give people, get a, delete, edit, copy to. Enter, leaving menus, copy item to dot.
So right there, you notice that as soon as I hit copy, we shifted, focus automatically shifted over to the dialog, and we told the user, now you're in the copy to dialog. And if I press tab to navigate through.
Tab, contents of regional launch plans library, folders list box.
We
To
tell-
move to an item, press.
We tell you, okay, now when you tab, now you're in the folder list, so you can select what destination that you want. So if I arrow,
Contents of regional launch.
I get the Bavarian expansion collateral, and if I press enter,
Enter. Copy item to dialog. Copy item to. This folder doesn't have any subfolders.
we even read that level of information for them. So I'm going to kind of hurry
Tab,
up.
tab. Copy here.
Now here's another cool thing that I want you to pay attention to. When I press copy here, look at what it does.
Enter. List of folders and files. Use up and down arrow keys to navigate. Alert. Copied one item to Bavarian expansion collateral.
Wasn't that super exciting? Hell yeah! So right there, you complete it. I can see, so I see the alert and can tell that the file actually copied. But now, using ARIA alerts, we're able to intercept that and let the screen reader know that, hey, this thing actually copied as well. And that's super exciting. And here's the other thing. I used Shift F10, as I showed you, to open the command bar, to open the context
button.
menu. But I could also do, if I just press the question mark, at any time, I can surface all the keyboard shortcuts right from the experience. So I don't have to go find some help article to know what keyboard shortcuts. And this helps not only non-sighted users, it helps all of you, everyone. If you want to know how to quickly rename a file, how to quickly select an item, now you can really do that.
Escape virtual PC cursor.
So that's just a quick look at what we do in the mobile,
JAWS
new document
professional.
library
Quit JAWS
experience.
dialog. Are you?
And now I won't have you guys suffer listening to that, because I know it's kind of takes a while to get used to that. So that's our modern documents library experience. And how did we do this? What was our best practices? Well, one, we had a very targeted test matrix. IE11 right now is the best for accessibility, so that's what we focused on. We focused on JAWS as being the #1 screen reader. Two, we added that predictable and efficient keyboard navigation that I spoke about before. Again, we used Windows Explorer as the basis for our stuff. Three, the intuitive narration, those confirmations that I shared. So we focus on the most used features, sounds great, but then what comes after that? So the second thing we did was, and actually let me tell you a story. The first modern feature we shipped for SharePoint was the new OneDrive for Business. And when we decided, hey, we're going to do the OneDrive for Business modern UI, we really want to build in accessibility. So we did a lot of work, and me and the engineering team were like, yeah, we got it. But we wanted to make sure that we actually had it. So we set up focus groups. And we actually got blind, non-sighted users and low vision users to come in and give it a try. And let me tell you, it was such a humbling experience. Because in many cases, we were like, oh, we got this. And then we saw them how they used to, and we realized that not every single user was the same way. Some used headers to navigate. Some had the screen reader just read the entire page. And so what we realized was that, yes, we had definitely improved, but there was more work to be done. And it was a great experience. And we loved it so much that now we do that for every single experience we shipped. So for all the new modern experiences that you saw this week that we'll be releasing, we go through a focus group with non-sighted users to make sure that we got it right. And here's the cool thing. We not only do that on the web, but we also do that on mobile. And that's the next demo that I'm going to show you. I'm going to switch the audio. He told me to tell him that so it wouldn't be really loud. So I'll be demoing with iOS. iOS in the market has the most known for the best accessibility. And I'll be using a tool, accessibility tool called VoiceOver. And basically is the same as what you saw JAWS do that turns text to speech, but on mobile phones. So I'm going to turn this on. And then I'm going to navigate through the SharePoint app.
VoiceOver on. Settings. Accessibility. SharePoint.
Oh,
Selected. Frequent pivot. 1 of 2.
thank you.
Button. Tap to
I know.
select tab frequent.
That's a good point. It's more authentic without the screen because this was for people who can't see. Yeah. Okay, so now here I am in the new SharePoint mobile app that just released in May, and I'm super excited to share that this app, when we released it, was all the way accessible. So the first thing I want you to notice is that I landed in the frequent tab list, but notice what it says when I go to following.
Following. Selected. Following pivot. 2 of 2.
Notice that
Frequent pivot. 1 of 2.
that
Selected.
small thing,
Frequent pivot. 1 of 2.
that small thing where we say 1 of 2 tabs is super helpful for users because it lets them know, hey, I can't see that there are 2 tabs, and somebody keeps telling me that to get to my follow list. By telling them there's 1 out of 2, it makes it really easy for them to be like, hey, I'm not getting my site. I can't find my site. Maybe it's in the other list. So then there are multiple ways that non-sighted users navigate, but the most common are either 2 things. They're either swiping element through element or having the screen or just moving their finger around. So I'm going to swipe.
Following loyalty program. Group.
So right there, we read the name of the site. I'm going to go in.
Site. App back button. Button.
So we automatically put focus on the back button. And the reason that we do that is in case you chose the wrong group, you can easily go back. So now I'm inside the group. And now I'm going to quickly jump to the news. News is a brand new feature that we haven't even released. I'm super excited to show this because we haven't even fully released it, and see how accessible it is.
Roadshow deck. Many of us on the team have to talk to various employee stakeholders about this project. So we created a roadshow deck you can take around to your partner teams. Adam Harmetz. September 15th, 2016.
See how awesome that is? Right from the get-go, it's fully accessible. Even the news feature is like that. And if I put my finger over activities,
you viewed Q3 resources yesterday.
Same thing. We tell them, hey, here's the activity, who viewed it. Now I can jump over to the menu.
Lists.
I can navigate my list of recent files.
Recent and popular files.
That apparently are not showing up. But here's the cool thing. If they were to show up, it would read the name of the file type, as well as who modified and when it was last modified. And the another part, a part of this that's cool is that the same way that you use and navigate files in the SharePoint mobile app is the exact same way you do in the OneDrive mobile app as well. Because we've also worked as hard on making sure the OneDrive mobile app is accessible as well. And it's not only on files. I can go to the lists.
Recent, back, loyalty, lists. Lists. Department contacts list. Modified September 25th, 2016.
So even lists.
Select list.
I can double tap to enter the list. Even lists are accessible.
Back button.
Now I'm going to go all the way back.
App back. Heading.
And the last thing I want to show you is search.
Search field.
So
is editing.
Notice
search all SharePoint. Character mode. Insertion point at start.
So right there we notice, hey, you're in search mode. You can search all of SharePoint. You're in character mode. That means that the keyboard is up. So the moment that I go ahead and press one letter.
Cap A. Search suggestion below.
Isn't that amazing? We also tell you, hey, there's suggestions down below as well, which is super cool because users now get to know. So that's just a quick look. Let me turn off VoiceOver so it doesn't come up
settings. Again. VoiceOver.
So this is just a really quick look to show that we not only do this in our experiences. Oh, sorry. We not only do this in our web experiences, but we do that for mobile. Our team is working on doing the same thing for the Android app that just went live and also on the Windows app. So I'm super excited for that. The fourth thing we do is including accessibility from day one. And kind of what that means is we don't ship to first release or out to customers unless we validate it, unless we've gone through a focus group where we prove that we actually made things accessible. And that really helps us have a really high bar, which is something that it's really great and I'm really proud of. The latest experience where we're doing this is our new modern authoring experience that's just kind of rolling out now. And in our modern authoring experience, everything that I've showed you so far is pretty much about consuming content. But the new authoring experience is all about creating content. And we've just started going through making it really easy to author accessible content. And that's what I'm going to show you. Don't worry, this time I did not forget. So these are our new pages, and this is the Pages library, which, by the way, you navigate the exact same way that we do the document library. And here's a quick page that I created. I just titled it Accessibility is Awesome, so I'm going to go ahead and click Edit. And here's the cool thing. I can do everything I'm doing with a mouse with a keyboard. So if I'm focused right now in the title and I press Tab, you see that the green little button is highlighted. If I press Enter, I get the toolbox, and I can use arrow keys to select the different web parts that I can add. For this demo, I'm going to add the image web part. I can choose to pick an image from my recent or my site or upload, all available through arrow keys. But if I select here on site, and then I can go and select documents, and I'm going to go ahead and say marketing leaders and select that and press the open. All of this, by the way, fully without using my arrow, without using my mouse. And here's the really cool thing. As soon as the image gets added, we automatically put focus on that caption box. And I know it's kind of hard to see, but you'll see that little flickering thing. That means that the focus has automatically been set on the caption. And so it's really easy for me as a user to be like, I should probably populate that, shouldn't I? And when I do that, guess what? That image's alternative text. So if I'm a non-sighted user, when I go into this page and I see that image, what I'm actually going to hear, hey, it's a picture of a woman in yellow. This is us making accessibility the happy path. Users don't have to go after the fact, go and add something or open a pane and add alt text. We instinctively just put them through, hey, you upload an image, why don't you just add a caption? That just makes sense and makes things more easy. You add it, and now all of a sudden that becomes the alternative text, and boom, it's there. And these are just some of the things we're doing with our new modern authoring. And we're thinking about doing more than just this, because that's right now relatively subtle. But you can kind of see this idea of it shouldn't be something after the fact, but we can build it in place. And some of this best practices, kind of what I said before. We made accessible content the happy path. And same as with the modern document library experience, and I just don't have the time to demo it. It's really cool, though, and I ask you guys when we roll it out to please give it a try. You can use keyboarding to navigate the entire authoring page. We do incredible good intuitive narration to tell you, hey, when you're inside the web part, when you're navigating inside the web part, when you're navigating between web parts. And we also tell you there's also keyboard shortcuts for all the expected rich text editor features, which, by the way, we didn't invent. We used Word and other web rich text editors as our basis so that if you're familiar with that, you can use the same keyboard shortcuts. So our fourth part of the strategy was kind of what we call getting and acting on customer feedback. SharePoint Online gives us the opportunity to get direct access to customers so that we can make improvements regularly and also address customer issues. One area where me as an accessibility driver for the team is that most of the asks that I get are around, hey, I'm about to buy SharePoint, I'm in procurement, and I want to know how accessible SharePoint is, how I can configure it while keeping it accessible. And those are all great questions, but we really wanted also questions around, hey, we want the specific issues that people are experiencing. So one of the things we started doing is this idea of really focusing on customer feedback. And we do it in 3 ways. One, we started participating in O365 monthly calls with organizations like the World Blind Union. We've also done customer visits with Section 508 coordinators to understand the struggles that the users are going through and actually get their feedback directly. And we've also started doing conference participation by going to conferences like the National Federation for the Blind or CSON, which is an accessibility-related conference. Microsoft as a whole has made accessibility such an important thing that they set up the Disability Answer Desk. And what that does is people with disabilities can call Microsoft for help and get help on consumer products, but also enterprise products, and SharePoint is included in one of those. So if you have an issue, you can contact them, and they come back and tell us. And last but not least, we also have documentation. We've actually been working on making sure that we have documentation that covers everything about, hey, here's everything you need to know about SharePoint Online accessibility, but also provides detailed articles on how to get stuff done. And I'm going to show you a couple. OK, so what you're looking at right now is a brand new article that we've written around accessibility support for SharePoint Online. And what you'll notice is at the top, it starts with a basic, hey, what's new for SharePoint accessibility? Covers covers the basic accessibility features as well as our keyboard shortcuts. But down here, I'm really excited about this concept of what you see for SharePoint Online libraries. And it's step-by-step walkthroughs on how to accomplish common tasks using a screen reader. So if I use this one, for example, on how to create a document library, a document in a document library, we provide this in-depth guide for non-sighted users to know, hey, this is exactly what you need to do to get it done. And not only does it work for web, but we also started doing this on the mobile apps for iOS, as an example. And this really helps because one of the feedback that I get from customers is, hey, I feel like I'm always doing something wrong, and I don't see how to get it, and I wish somebody explained something to me in detail. And so this is our attempt at doing that by picking just a couple of core scenarios and saying, hey, we want you to get comfortable with our experience. So why don't you try creating a document? It's a pretty happy path. And if you follow these step-by-step instructions, you can get there. The last thing we did was what we call the developer tools. And this is basically giving developers the tools to build on top of SharePoint while keeping it accessible. We have the new SharePoint development framework that there was sessions about. I really recommend you guys check out the BRK 4015 session. But in that session, they showcased a brand new web part. And I'm actually going to skip around to a demo. So this web part was one of the web parts they covered in that session. And what we used to build this was the SharePoint framework and something that's called the Office Fabric UI in React. And what it does is it's the design language that we use internally for making our new modern experiences. Now, here's the really cool thing. Because we were working on making sure that our modern experiences are accessible, in the Office Fabric UI, we provide all the components. Like, for example, this text box, the button, the checkbox, all are available in the Office Fabric UI. And because we did the work to make it accessible for our own experience, we've made that available there as well. So if you just use what we did and grab all those components and put them together, it makes building accessible web parts super easy. And I'm going to show you real quick just with keyboarding. So focus, I can set focus to the text box. I can tab to the add button. I can tab to the first item. I can arrow key between the 3. I can left and right arrow. Here's me all the way to deleting the item. I can use space bar to select checkboxes. I can go back and add a new item. Boom, and the item gets added. And so how did we do this? Basically, like I said, we use the SharePoint framework but we also use Office Fabric React. So by allowing users to just use the components that we have available, you can build web parts that are easily accessible. Of course, read our guidance. It's something that we're working on to make this a lot easier. And test your web part on Workbench, which is what you use to build our web parts. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, Melissa, that sounds great, but I need something custom, and like it's got to be my own thing. And I'm like, sure, if you want to do that, you can, of course. But at that point, the only guidance we can give you is to follow the web accessibility guidelines, which is the quintessential guidelines for all web needs to follow. And also to leverage ARIA when HTML is not enough. So that was our SharePoint accessibility playbook and everything we did to ensure that our new modern experiences are accessible. So kind of wrap up, what's next? So I mentioned earlier that we have conformance statements. We're working on updating those to match our new modern experiences. We're also shipping our next set of modern experiences that I'm sure you've all heard about in this conference. And again, we're going to make sure that those are accessible. More documentation. We have a team working on creating more help articles to really help drive the point that you're not alone and we can help you. Guidance in SP framework, definitely coming, is something that we're doing. And for those of you wondering about, hey, what about on-prem? As part of Feature Pack 1 for SharePoint 2016, they'll be getting the new OneDrive for Business UI, which includes a lot of these accessibility improvements. Now, there's a couple of resources live when you guys get in the deck, provided by the Office 365 accessibility team. I kind of just run through these. If you want to get them, they're there. And the last message I will leave you with is accessibility is something that we really, really care about. We've made it a strategic bet. It's something that's very personal to Satya, and we're doing. And I'll give you another story. As I was preparing for this talk, I looked at this talk from this gentleman, this architect, who went blind due to an accident. And he said something that really resonated with me, which was that each and every one of us, there's only two types of people. People that have a disability and people that just haven't found theirs yet. And I think that's so very true. So we should really, it's really important for us, and it should be really important for you guys, that we keep our bar high and make sure to deliver on these experiences. Thank you guys so much. Have a safe trip back. And any questions? Any questions? Or everybody just wants to get the hell out of here? I totally understand that. Feel free to come up front if you have a question. Feel free to take my email. But if not, thank you so much. And thank you, my team.